Can you go back?
Yep. Come on, there we go.
Okay, so you may have used the park dedication tool that's on our webpage. You can click on a park or neighborhood and find out kind of what money we're talking about. And since 2014, Whittier has accrued 1.6 million and some funds, which seems like an awful lot. And we realize we've allocated all of it except 18,000. So it's out there going to work in projects in parks. Okay, next page. So this gives you an idea of where that money is sitting. So the 1.6 million we talked about that accrued, the 1.6 that's been allocated, everything in the middle blue are the allocations. So that first one, Midtown Greenway ADA access ramp, that was for the Sioux Line, kind of a county project at Sioux Line Garden, 370,000. Clinton Field Sports Courts, which is currently underway with Bianca, we've met her, that's 400,000. Whittier Park Implementation Plan, which is all in the playground and the courts and everything that was happening there, which is also underway, currently on hold because of some environmental testing. 450,000. 20th St Tot Lot, 150. That project's underway, and then a separate item for the 28th Street Tot Lot acquisition to get that from VDOT. We allocated up to 200,000 for that. So the next gray lines down are what that comprises. MnDOT surprisingly came back and gave us a reduced price of 100,000. So that's what we're going to buy it for. We're estimating we're going to need about 20,000 to do the closing costs and all the other pieces to get that land. On state, there's 120,000 that gets to go back into the Whittier neighborhood park dedication. So that gives 138,000 right now, still unallocated. Well, once the money returns, that's available. And you know that stuff's going up all the time. You're always accruing new funds in that dedication. So when you're asking what could possibly change, I crossed out the things that are projects that are underway that money's already been funded for the most part, or is like doing its work already. So other than the money that's going to be returned once we finish the closing costs, which we won't know about for a little while, probably to the fall here. Midtown Greenway, which is that money that will towards the access ramp and Sioux Line, are the only funds that could potentially move. And in order for funds that have already been allocated by the Board of Commissioners to move, they have to be allocated again, reallocated by the Board of Commissioners. So if that were to move over, then we've got a little over 500,000 currently, with more probably coming down the pike. I'm sure you're aware of developments about happening in the neighborhood more than yes. And I do want to note that none of these funds expire. They're moving around. None of them, we're not like chomping at the bit to spend it before it goes away. It's all going to sit there till it's spent. Okay.
You mentioned that in order for the funds to go back into the main bucket, they have to be reallocated right away.
Not right away, just reallocated period by the board. So staff can't move it, Whittier Alliance can't move it, only the board with a vote to move it.
Yep, just wanted that.
Right. Yes.
There we go.
I think you're aware of all the projects that are kind of currently underway, but I just for my own purposes wanted to sketch them out. Clinton Field, Whittier, those are pretty much funded and are on their way. 28th Street Tot Lot, which I know Paul's going to speak a little bit about here. I was just talking with the project manager the other day, Carol. She said probably needs approximately 250,000 to get some amenities like drinking fountain, lighting, public art in there. The estimated, undetermined cost, and maybe Paul gets a chance to speak, we can talk more about that. How much that state park is actually going to cost, we don't know because Civic State has redesigned it. So everything in there, because it's new, should be eligible for park dedication funds. Should you be interested in spending in that? Sioux Line Garden, TBD, because everything's up in the air right now with trying to get the land, the contamination remediated. We anticipate that we're going to get a grant we're applying in September, kind of cleanup grant, and most of the costs we need to take everything out, put everything back in again, because it's a replacement and not an enhancement or something new, we can't spend park dedication funds on those. Because park dedication funds are collected when you build new housing, it means more people are coming into your neighborhood, it means you need more amenities to support them, you need more parks to support the new folks. So we don't redo old things, it's only redoing new things. That's how the money is allocated. Go back.
Oh.
Washburn Fair Oaks, that's coming up on the CIP. So in 25-26, there's 650 or so that's allocated to Washburn Fair Oaks. And when you look at the master plan for that park, just about everything is eligible if you wanted to add.
Sorry, one sec. I don't know if this is. Hey, Natalie, can you hear us on Zoom? She was hearing us before, though. That was weird.
Okay.
Natalie, can you hear us? All right, just go ahead.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it. It's only Natalie.
I can send a and we're
Yeah.
okay. Just about everything that's in the master plan for Washburn Fair Oaks, because you could use public park dedication fees.
Well, if we're recording it, it's not, there's no voice. I don't know if.
Oh, do you want to just switch to your like computer?
Yeah, we'll just unblock these, yeah. Oh, she had something.
Second.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
How did you?
Yeah.
So you can hear us now, Natalie, right? Hi, or thumbs up. Connection's unstable. Go ahead.
Yes, I can hear.
Cool.
Good, thanks, Helen.
I'm feeling unstable.
Sorry about
Nicolette, you just mentioned we talked about that at your last meeting. So that park, everything will be eligible if you wanted to support an additional something there. Next. I do want to point out, once it's allocated, as I said before, you need a board vote to reallocate it. Those funds may not expire, and neighborhood organizations such as yours can recommend project priorities to the board and staff and the board. You guys don't control the money, but we listen to what you might want. So when we think about kind of where the funds are now and what should happen, the first option is that we do now, because the funds are not expiring and we don't really know what's happening with sewer line yet, and we don't really know what's happening with some of these other projects, and there's not a rush yet to move that money to have it somewhere. I do think possibly the commissioner wanted to move it as a statement to Hennepin County that this money is not available to you, but it's not available to them to offer a construction agreement with them anyway, which we don't have. So it's not going anywhere. So staff thinks it might be good just to wait maybe till the end of the year and see kind of where we're at with sewer line and then decide if some money is needed there or not. Second option is reallocate all those funds back to the park dedication funds, those 307, so that we bring it up to the 500,000 that we had looked at earlier. Or it can be, and then used on whatever future project we decide to use it on, or it can be sent to a specific project in the medium neighborhood. And again, that kind of allocation must be done by the board of directors.
Sorry, what is the CIP thing?
Oh,
You're fine, we can come back to it.
Capital improvement program.
Okay.
Okay. That is how we determine where money goes to all our different projects, and it's based on an equity matrix using data collected from neighborhoods and past investments in parks. We do process every end of the year, and the new one is about to be done in December. So if we want to hang on and let that money, that 300 or whatever it is, kind of get put into the discussion of, all right, what happens with the next CIP that comes up, that comes out in 6 years. That's a good timing for it to happen. And then the third option is you want stuff moved now, we do a board action and we move it. But it's funny to do a board action to move the money when we're already addressing the budget and the money in 2 months. But we can certainly do that. So next. Oh, that was it. Okay.
Oh.
So no, that's actually in place. Yeah, question.
Okay.
I think in the past, your alliance has written letters suggesting what you'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing here. if you want money moved now or certain place.
Yeah, and I think this was more just an information about what we could do. I think we kind of put that in. Just to have a conversation about what our options are, and then in the future, we can make a vote, put this in motion. If you want to recommend moving the money or keeping it or doing anything, and I think it was just more of a conversation to talk with more City of Skate here to talk about their needs, their wants. And so with that, just right now, does anybody have any questions or comments about this? Just general idea of we have money that's allocated right now, and we only have like $18,000 left. Technically, it'll be 380 plus the 18,000, so let's say 400,000, whatever.
It's
So
gonna
that-
be 138, but if you recommend moving
Oh,
the money out of
yep.
line, it'll be 500.
Yes, if the Sioux Line Garden does not get that access ramp, it'll be about 500. And so I guess the money isn't being used right now, so it's just sitting there either way, and that's totally fine, because even if it gets moved back, it'll sit there for a while till the board approves their recommendations. So
If there's somewhere you really want it to go, we wanna know.
yeah,
I do have a question. There was a reduced price on the Tot Lot acquisition. And the money was already allocated, right? So that 100,000 is, I don't wanna say slush, but kind of slush right now. In the Tot Lot
The reduced
fund, or
price is
what's
what we're
that?
paying,
Okay,
so we thought we'd have to pay 240, they said, no, just pay us 100. We're gonna hold on to 20 because we think we need it for the closing costs, so that leaves 120 slush, as you call it. That's gonna automatically, once the closing happens, since it wasn't spent, it will automatically go back into the general.
so not stay allocated to Tot Lot, but go back to the pot.
Correct, yeah, because of the general fund. That's the only one that doesn't need a board action, because it's just the math, didn't work out with the reduced price.
I just have kind of a general question. You mentioned about, I think it was remediation or something relative to the soil, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't know, I haven't seen it, well, it's a story about that.
Long story, I'm sure you could all go.
Yeah, I mean, the short story is that Hampshire County wanted a bike ramp through the garden. That was unanimously rejected in March by the park board and a lot of community groups also. Midtown Greenway Coalition, Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota, like the largest bicycling groups in the state opposed the project, along with the garden. That money now is sitting around, which is the debate, but ultimately as part of the bike project, the county did soil sample testing and found high levels of diesel residue organics and also polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. So the soil was deemed contaminated by new standards by the MPCA, and now the soil needs to be replaced and remediated in order to be safe for gardening. So the first phase is to remediate the soil. The second phase is to rebuild Sioux Line. And all of that is, well, I mean, Colleen, you spoke to it, but we're looking at remediation maybe at the end of the year, and hopefully a rebuild early next year.
So I understand what you're saying, it's basically taking the topsoil, some depth, that's the whole garden area.
Yeah.
And moving it somewhere else.
Yes, we've entered into the NPCA's remediation program, and we are waiting for them to tell us how much that we.
Okay. All right, yeah, thanks.
See, I knew that you could do it. Because he's done it so many times.
I mean, so when it comes to the topic of reallocating the funds, Sioux Line is supportive of the Tot Lot project. One, because it was the highest scoring project in the whole of the Parkwood equity districts in 2021. And two, because we have people in the community that want it. Sonia is one example here. And, you know, I'm always advocating for families and kids, which is partly why I'm with Sioux Line, and it's partly why I'm very strongly aligned with Paul and the city of Skate. Like, that's a project that could be built with these extra funds. The other thing is we've seen Clinton Field Park might be delayed, Whittier Park is delayed. I know with the North Commons project that is requesting a lot more money, potentially all of the projects in Whittier could be delayed. So there's a very real chance that the skate park doesn't get built, even though the money is available now already. And Sioux Line can be rebuilt soon enough, right? And moreover, Sioux Line was built with no public funds 33 years ago. So in the worst case scenario, we rebuild without using taxpayer dollars. Done it once, could do it again. So that's why we're here advocating for the skate park.
Just wanted to add on to that, I mean, people are talking about like the county projects. And I think most people are aware that that agreement to work with the county was voted down by the park board. That was gonna be a huge project. That was gonna be a project that required massive construction. It was gonna raise the greenway 3 feet. It was gonna be like a massive, what, like $1 million, $2 million project. And from what I understand, the fact that that was voted down, the federal funding, which was crucial for that project, was also expired for that. So that like massive impact project, which the garden was against for a variety of reasons, including the fact that this is like the backyard for a bunch of kids. This is like their backyard. This is like a place where they play, and this is like a community gathering space. That's why people were against the project, not because people don't want place.
I will say though, the way we've had it before is through this committee, they have voted in support of that access project before. And so I just want to recognize what has happened in this committee before, which is why we had voted in favor to the board to recommended that the funding could be used, but based on the analysis that they had discussed it with the gardeners, and that was what was discussed in this committee. And so just to kind of warn you guys is that that money was technically allocated, but you're right, I have no idea now that it was voted down in general through the park board about that federal money, which we discussed before. I think that they might have renewed it again, but I don't, if the park board already voted it down once, can they vote for it again?
Well, our voting wasn't connected to the federal funds, but the fact that it's not moving forward, it expired, and I think, I heard that they wanted to re-up it again, I don't think they did, so I think that money was good.
Okay.
Yeah, I checked that. So the Met Council is very strict about having one renewal for each what they call regional solicitation projects. The county already used up their one, and the funds expired on June 30th officially. So the project is dead, the money is gone, and
I was in the middle.
Oh, sorry.
I understand that this group voted for those funds in the past. But my point was that I do think that whatever happens next with the Sioux Line rebuild will be a much smaller scale project. However, whatever kind of like walking path, like we were hoping it would be all natural materials, like whatever it's going to be a low traffic. It's not going to change the character of the location as a park and a gathering space and a teaching space and a learning space, blah, blah, blah. So that's why I was thinking like, we probably don't need that much money anyway for a much smaller scale. All the remediation will be covered by different money. So whatever happens, like, you know, someone was talking about like maybe a shade structure, like things like that, like whatever the smaller scale version of the project is, shouldn't need that much money.
I can speak to that though. Construction costs are pretty high, no matter what you put, even if you're putting natural materials or whatnot, you're gonna need to fix the land and et cetera. And so that money might be used as well. That's all. You might need that money for the Sioux Line in general, for a new path, or a shade structure. Everything costs money. It's not gonna be like only $100. That's really nothing in comparison to what it costs for a landscape project. I'm just putting that out there. I mean, I'm open to the money going anywhere, to be honest, to help our community, no matter where it is, any project. But I would love to hear more from City of Skate to talk about how much money they even need, because I don't know if any of those funds will also allocate. So just to cover the construction costs real quick to you, it's really high right now.
Well, just,
Need it, but yeah.
Okay, but you're getting.
My graphics way, that is the ballpark we talked about full time. Currently, it's about
Hold on, yeah.
Might as well. Yeah.
Separately, so I think.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add though, real quick? Sorry. Good.
So I think since we have Colleen here and Paul will be going out, we're talking about the paper stuff, just like if folks have questions about the park dedication funding structure or like the kind of pros and cons of voting to reallocate.
Yeah.
This is even thing where it is. I think that would be like a good use of.
But I have one more question. There were several plans of how the sewer line garden and the ADA access would be done. Is there a final version of that? I know at all the meetings I've been to, that was not. I know the initial presentation relative to the sewer line garden was voted down by the majority at the first meeting when we talked about the sewer line garden in this committee. Because I was one of those at that meeting, which was only like 10 people. So, but I know that there are these two different designs that were presented.
When this board, voted to support the ADA access, all we had was a written plan, like, hey, let's support having the cyclists have, ADA access to the Midtown Greenway. Sounds great. So of course, you supported it, we supported it. Then we started to see the designs that came out. It was, extremely over-engineered for that space. And all of those designs that have been shown already, those are all gone. We're starting from scratch. We're going to bring in a new design team that, as we've been saying again and again, is really going to hopefully honor that sort of bohemian aspect of the homegrown garden and not try to engineer it too much. Whether or not there's a ADA or trail or some kind of access in there is undetermined because we haven't done the community engagement and haven't talked to the gardeners with the designers yet, so we don't know what that looks like yet. So might there be a need for money? There might, which is part of why the letting stuff sit there while we figure it out for the end of the year might be worth it, so that you're not moving it here and then moving it back and forth. Putting everything back is not money we can spend park dedication funds on because it's not there. But if there were a shade structure, if there were a new path, if there were, I don't know what. So the money's needed everywhere, all of these projects, right? But there might be something neat that can happen.
Any other questions about park dedication funds or anything pertaining to that?
And I'll stay here after this. Thank you.
Awesome. Do you wanna?
Yeah, that's over there.
Yeah. You wanna take my spot?
I'll
move back.
well, I can see the screen. Did you get that right, Megan?
Yeah, I did. Let me 1 second to pull it up.
So I'll just reintroduce myself. I'm Paul Forsman, the City of Skates. We are a public skate park advocacy group that's been in existence for almost 10 years. So thanks for having us. I was here at the June 12th meeting. I can't remember June something. And similar presentation. So some of it might be familiar if anybody was there or that, but some of the numbers have changed even as of today, as Colleen was giving you some numbers on the sewer line on that. And can we go to the top, actually the first page? There we go. So I just want to give you a history of the 28th Street Tot Lot. Colleen worked on the Southwest Master Plan, and Colleen, by the way, give her a hand. She also wrote this Minneapolis Park Board State Park Activity Plan, which I will say is the best government document on how to integrate skateboarding anywhere in the world. Stands up.
Canvas 5.8. That's
It's a great document. Colleen worked with us for what, 3 years, 4 years before we got that all out. But
he wanted a neighbor. It's on Zoom now.
It was 10 years, wasn't it? It was 10 years. It was 10 years. So needless to say, any of our projects have not been overnight, results. This is not one of them. That's been overnight either. So the intention in the long-term plan Southwest was for this to be a DIY spot, and that would be what, if you don't know what that is, that's where skateboarders build it themselves. That was the original intention. It was in the skate park activity plan. But in 2023, as we were working through the agreements to try to move forward, it just came to a point where the Minneapolis Park Board actually has liabilities and legal concerns where you can't actually, as a volunteer, even use as a power drill. And so there's just some things that we weren't able to work through. We agreed to go forward in a DIY spirit skate park. And the good news there is Mark Leske, who's a resident of Whittier, lives 2 blocks from the site. has been building DIY skate parks for, Dan, here, we just walked in my notes. Leski's been building parks for what, 30, 40 years, since he was about
3 decades.
Yeah, 3 decades. So Mark's been building DIY parks all around the country for 3 decades, and we brought Mark into designing the DIY spirit here. So anyway, it's kind of funny because I was just thinking of the similarities between the Sioux Line and this park. This park was intended to be something very community oriented, like the Sioux Line now, and the Sioux Line took a big turn going to something like $2 million construction, and so this park kind of made a turn as well. It went from being a very DIY, probably low cost community build. When we went to a contractual paying competitive wages and things contract to move forward with it, it also became more expensive. So the good news is it's not a $2 million bill. It's more of a $500,000 bill.
Everything costs money.
Everything costs money. Yeah, and so even today we're moving the plans to the city planning development review process, and they're coming back now and saying we might not need the stormwater management system that we designed. Like it might be able to be simpler. So things like that change all the time while you're working on these projects, and so that number that we're trying to zero in isn't completely zeroed in. And by the way, it's just an estimate, right? You never really know what something's going to cost until it goes out the bid. So that being said, I do feel comfortable with that number. City of Skate in the past would be able to get concrete donations for projects. You know, those are some things that we talked about in the skate park activity plan that maybe we can implement some projects. So there might be some cost savings, some ways that we can build in some savings. I know some of the projects here in town, just to get that DIY spirit, we've been able to hire local skaters to work on the projects, kind of some of the subs on the project. And we hope to do that here too, to get more of a community and local feel on the project. So if you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Yeah, as Colleen was saying, that purchase price, luckily it went down. Sounds like there's going to be maybe a little extra money there on the park dedication fees. By the way, I got to point out, park dedication fees, the real full name is the Dibble Hornstein Park Dedication Funds. And Scott Dibble is actually the biggest supporter of skateboarding in the state. He's sponsored a resolution at the state capitol for $4 million of skate park grants. So it seems fitting that park dedication fees might be used for a skate park. And then, by the way, that is the instrument that we used at Elliott Park for that skate park, because they are a neighborhood who is fortunate enough to have, you know, a larger amount in their park dedication funds, which Whittier is as well. I don't know if you notice the differences in the communities. It all depends where development's happening for that park dedication funds, and it makes sense, right? It's tied to populations and things like that. But you are lucky to have a fund that does get, you know, yeah, replenish anything. So where we're at right now, the playground's going forward, phase 1. It's that blue portion up there. Skate park is a snake run to the right. There's a full bowl and flow area. The area there, number 7, is actually a flat ground. That's the easement space we had to leave from MnDOT. And we will have skate elements that will change possibly year to year, or configure it to change a little bit. So that'll be a little bit of a DIY element. We're hopeful we'll bring the skate community in to build elements, maybe not year to year, but hopefully something freshen it up as time goes by the space. And then, you know, Colleen brought up the arts, potential arts investment down the road. That could be community-based or public funds, but there is a 20 by 250 foot wall there that's begging for some sort of art element, and really to create a space there. And that's the thing. City of Skate, we're not just creating skate parks, we're also creating community spaces, and we think the skate park will really make this space a successful space, active space, and we think it's really crucial that the park is fully built out. So, yeah. Next slide that Maggie's over here, it'll go down. There we go. Yeah.
Oh, this is it.
No, one more up. There we go. There we go.
He's like, get here.
So again,
you know, you can stand.
Back to the history of 28th Street. Since it was not owned by Minneapolis Park and Rec Board, and even though it was at one point the highest equity space in the city on apartment metrics, their CIP at that point, they only contributed $200,000 to the park, which obviously was not enough to get it fully completed. That was one of the reasons why we had the DIY, which would have been more of a community spirited, much more economical way to do it. So you can see comparison Clintfield, their CIPs was 1.35 million. So it's the space that's maybe 40% bigger than this. You as a Whittier board did vote to allocate park dedication funds to the Futsal Society. And I'll just let you know that I was the one that told Caleb from the futsal how to do that, because that's what we did in Ellis Park. And I'm very happy you supported that, because the futsal group is a great group to support. So just good comparison, this park always kind of was underfunded. And as you can see, the park board went after to pay for the purchase with the park dedication funds, as well as the overcharges for the skate park. So it was always kind of set up at a point where it was going to need funding some way. So going to the next slide. Now, at this point, City Skates is asking, we have a plan will be hopefully approved here in the next week or two. We're doing some final details with the city. Mark Leski's another nice story on that. Mark's the local designer, local builder. Get the final approval. We worked with California Skate Parks, which is actually the skate company that built the Olympic venues in Paris. And they worked hand in hand with us to get the final build documents done, to get those in the city. So it's been kind of a good partnership with just, really local, but yet somebody on an international stage working on the project as well, helping us along. Yeah, Dan.
Are those designs open for interpretation or change, or are they kind of set in stone at this point?
I think I usually in a process like this, once these are approved, I think we can still go out for a final, a final from the skate community, a little bit of feedback on it, and a little more, And they're all in CAD drawing right now, right? Like it's hard for a general public to look at it, and it's really mostly detailed skate features, right? So even that, it's hard, you don't see the elevations and stuff on that picture, but and the snake run, for example, is not set in stone either. What's going to be on that?
Okay. I know in the past if Diana Cheese in front of us, like, oh, this is gonna be this great park.
Yeah.
And they're like, budget appropriation is only allowed for so much.
Sure.
And we're shortchanged on a park, and we end up with a park that has the same characteristics of other parks that are already here. Sure. Which don't provide any growth.
Yeah.
But really all they do is, like, fortunately, they get kids on the streets in the neighborhood and give them something to do. The kids that don't have access to other neighborhoods in different parks, for us older guys, like we desire some form of variety at this point. Sure. There's some form of challenge. Yeah. Everything's 3 feet, 4 feet under.
So this park has you in mind. I mean, that's a peanut bowl. That's a traditional peanut bowl. Would be from like 1970s California, right? So it's 7 or 8 feet deep. Nice. And the idea there is to get generational use, right? Young kids plus people like yourselves using the park at the same time ends up being a better experience. It kind of self monitors the space. Good examples. So this is a very small park. It's not a very big park, but there's a lot crammed in there between the peanut bowl, the snake run, the flat area. That crazy that Mark Whittier, it's going to be like nothing else in the system. And that's the idea too. It's a skate park activity plan. There's a park, by the way, I don't know if you've been by Painter Park at 33rd in Lindale. It's busy all the time. It's getting used. It's close to this neighborhood, but it's not in your neighborhood. This is, there's another park that has $1 million budget. Thank you, Park Board, on that. It took 6 years to get there, but we were there. Right next to Central Elementary School, which is going to be beautiful. It will be a park geared towards beginner skaters as well as the community, and literally kids will have a skate park right out the back door of the school, and we hope to have some programming there. Nurture some more skaters there. But the idea is there's 3 parks kind of in a little triangle. Again, thinking of it as a system, thinking about variety, and thinking about the needs, right? So, I spoke with Commissioner Schaefer today. She was hoping to be here. She's ill. She's very vocal in favor of the skate park and reallocating the funds. She said, I'm not pressuring you, George. I'm just saying, it's real, and I can't totally speak for her, but that's what she told me. And if you choose at some point, she'd be willing to bring it for sure as an item.
And if this committee wants to vote on it, I mean, they're not opposed to it. Sure. Trying to keep our options open and trying to see where the money would be allocated to, and I also have to bring it to the board.
Yeah, of course.
For final approval, which I don't even think we have time for this. So that's why. Yeah. That's why I was saying it's more informational that maybe if folks are in favor of this, we can actually have a vote on this next month, or, yeah, probably next month, to have a conversation about really reallocating that. If we want to vote for in support of this, which I guess, is that the end of the presentation there? Or-
Yeah, pretty much. Any questions? I mean, right now, we're at the point where once we have city approvals, we can start, getting out to the community,
Yeah.
any fine tuning, start getting build documents down, and the goal would be to have it funded and ready to be out for bid, by first of the year, so it's something that can happen next year.
Yeah, and then just for timing, when is the 28th Street Tot Lot going to start construction? And
I have not heard.
Is that at the same time?
Last I heard, they're trying to do that, and I don't think that's going out for public bid because of the dollar amounts under, I'm not sure. It's not Colleen's project. My understanding they were trying to get the playground in by fall.
Okay. So yeah, then they wouldn't really coincide, they would still be separate.
Sounds like
technically.
it. Ideally, it would be
Separate
separate,
equipment, separate,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Okay, that's unfortunate.
It is.
Yeah, so how much money are you asking for again?
The project, bottom line is the project is gonna be right in the $500,000. I mean, that's the estimates right now. And I don't think.
Because I thought I read 520, and I think we would have. Okay. 500 bucks. So,
And there are groups like us, I mean, it's literally a $10,000 difference, there are groups like ourselves that could help out and share. And you're not gonna know that's what we're looking at, right?
Oh, for sure.
Everybody knows.
The construction costs will only go up at it, so the longer you wait, more. So. What are folks' comments or questions?
So I'm here partially in support of this project. There are no goals or goal-like features within Minneapolis Parks and Rec that anywhere. So I think this rounds out the portfolio of having like Elliott and Painter. This gives something different. The other great thing is these are free and accessible for anyone to try. So it's been a low barrier of entry, even to get my friends out there. We get them a loaner skateboard, I have a set of pads and a helmet, and we get them out there, or the community centers have boards and helmets for kids. So, and I've seen like the program at Painter Blossom, the free program is jam-packed with kids. But the other thing is, just going through that neighborhood, you see like, I think the wide variety of folks, like having various activities in parks brings, which is also awesome. And it's been a great supportive community for my kids and greatly reduced our costs of having to go and pay for skate parks to have access to this type of thing, especially during the months where we can possibly get out there.
Kind of a follow-up question on that. Is the programming being some kind of component of this, or?
We hope so, yeah. I mean, in City of Skate, we don't take on programming ourselves. We help assist it. We help pay for programming in places. We've helped align programming. There's some organizations that already do it and do it well, so it's not in our wheelhouse per se. That being said, we're known to donate complete skateboards, probably giving out $10,000 worth of complete skateboards in our existence, free to kids. Everywhere from North Minneapolis to just donated 10 complete skates to a new skate park out in Seymour, Wisconsin. So that's something that we do, and then try to help the community out that way. And there's other groups that are very good at it, as well as the skate shops in town are great about setting up that too. I think the park board for the program is actually used Third Layer and some other entities that already do. They have trained people who know how to coach and so forth. That being said, there are organic groups as well. There's Queer Skate Alliance that meets every Monday night at different skate parks, and they also offer lessons and sometimes equipment as well.
Any other questions or comments?
I think, I'm half a block from there. There's a high population density over there of working families that sometimes the parents aren't around for the kids because parents are taking on multiple jobs. Something like this is going to be a huge asset to the community as a whole. It's for the people that didn't have access to it, they're going to have firsthand access to it. with some of us older elders around, if you will. We help coach and we help encourage and get them involved, and I just think as this neighborhood really needs something like this to tie the neighborhood together. And I think the build with the Tot Lot, everything, I think it's very complimentary to the neighborhood. And like I said, I think it's just gonna be an asset that it's community building one-on-one there. Sure. Yeah. The only other thing input I can offer is I got here a little bit late, but I can tell you that the local parks, there isn't enough shade, there isn't enough water, and there isn't enough bathroom access. Now I understand public safety with bathrooms, but unfortunately, those are three very strong aspects. It gets hot in the summertime, you do need some shade, you're gonna need some water, and you're gonna need a bathroom. So I don't know what's, like I said, I'm not here.
Yeah, we didn't go through the plan of the Tot Lot. We were talking about park dedication fees, and and where the money is currently allocated and what could be allocated. Is there, do you remember, anybody remember from Bianca, is there a shade structure in the Tot Lot? It's proposed?
It is very tree laden. There's about 9 trees, I believe. There's 7 hackberry trees and 3 locust trees. And they removed 1 to make it all possible.
Is there restrooms?
There's no restroom at the moment. We have requested water, and I was happy to hear Tony mention that as a possible funding need down the line. I'm told a drinking fountain's like $100,000. That's some crazy number that you can't imagine.
And Carol said that you could use 250,000.
Yeah.
And lighting and public art, probably half of that at least is the drinking fountain, and that is what she's wondering if parking dedication.
Sure. The nice thing about that is that could be added later. You'd hope to have it right now. No, and the other reason you want the water access is just cleaning services or stuff, easy stuff, right? As well as just the keeping the, one thing that park board is need to do it is maintain it, and there will be plantings and new things planted there. There's going to be a rain garden, and you can't see it, but in the lower area there'll be a rain garden as well. But water is kind of crucial to it, and it hasn't been part of the inclusion of planning up to health.
So to be clear, then the funding, there is no funding for a drinking fountain or water access on the site.
Not currently, because the money that the 150 or so that they've got has been basically site preparation and all the other bases that need to be stabilization.
The reason I asked that, just to raise awareness for everybody that if it's a crucial part, and we fund the full 500,000 goes to the skate park, we still don't have a drinking fountain, and then we need to find one. Yeah, could be, but then you're going to tear out. It depends on where the water is coming from. Then you're going to tear out parts.
Yeah, I'm not asking where the water source is. I assume it's coming along the street line there, so it'd probably be close to that corner number 1. Probably the lobby spot will at least run, but I'm not sure what the water infrastructure is. I do know there's internet line.
But yeah, as everybody's kind of thinking about park dedication fees and where the highest and best use of our dollars. Again, we don't make that decision, the park board does. We recommend to them what we would like to see. They ultimately make the decision. But just thinking even bigger picture, like I love this idea, and if it happens right now, that's great. What about other parks that might need it, like Sioux Line or others? And I just want to put that out there for everybody to kind of give their opinion on that and how they feel about reallocating money and where we want to prioritize. Although I see this as a very real project, so that's why I feel like we'll go to that.
Just a clarification, where did park dedication come from, and like how, like, are there new park dedication fees that can go into the neighborhood, like, and
Yeah.
Yep, every time new housing units are built in your neighborhood, there's this fee is attached to the developer pays it, except for affordable housing units, which may be some of the ones that are slated to be done. And you get a certain amount based on, I don't know the exact formula, there's a whole link on here that I can forward afterwards that gives the information. But basically it's collected every time that there's a new development. And so, yeah, if you think there's still gonna be new development in Whittier, you're gonna have to.
Which I wanna highlight a little bit. I've been chair for 4 years now of this committee, and the first 2 years, we had nonstop developments. And some affordable housing, which do not play into the park dedication fees as much, but the past 2 years, we've lagged a lot on new developments. We haven't had any. And so, just wanna warn that that is currently happening, so that means the funds are not getting replenished. So if you start to use it until we get a new development in the neighborhood, that's when I'm. Just to clarify, because we don't have this.
And I'll point out too, that 1.6 million to accrue in a year, that's pretty fantastic. There are neighborhoods that from 2014 have accrued 20,000 or something like that. So it's a in-demand neighborhood where new stuff is being built, and so that's what we're getting.
On that note, would that mean that the development of New Nicollet would bring in more funds then?
Technically, but in order to get the park there in the first place, we're negotiating with the city about perhaps to have it given, the parkland given for free. Maybe we're saying, okay, then the parkland dedication is satisfied already, because if we don't, we're not gonna get a park there. So we're kind of looking at what's possible.
And it depends on what's built on the new Nicollet site.
There could be a lot of affordable.
In general, if it's affordable housing, you're not gonna get any or as much. Or any. And so if it's market rate, then we could get lots of people. So it kind of depends on what the mixture of unit types is.
Yeah, it's hard to
how that works. Because that is the largest vacant lot in the next redevelopment.
Is there any downside? I don't know, I guess I'm curious from like both Paul, your perspective and Clean, your perspective. Is there any downside to us just leaving recommending leaving the funding where it is, not reallocating anything? We've kind of seen how things shake out.
As I said before, we don't see it as an issue, but I think.
Yeah. It's just time. I mean, it could delay. I mean, the build documents could get built. I mean, obviously at this point, City of Skate's paying for the build documents, so we're willing to pay it, willing, I guess we wouldn't be willing if for some reason there was thought there was no way there was going to be any public funds put towards it. That's a heavy ask for us to raise 500,000 beyond the design fees we're doing. That being said, you're at the at some point that money's going to have to be reallocated because it's right now it's allocated for ADA, and I'd be highly suspicious that you're actually going to build an ADA ramp there. But that's what it's designated for. So it's going to have to be designated for what's in. So you're going to be reallocating some point. That being said, I'm not trying to rush you either. I think you have some time as a group to think about it and talk about it.
But technically, it could be reallocated back.
Yeah, it could be reallocated. Yeah, you could
or something.
Yeah, you could reallocate it to whatever. You could request to have reallocated. Yeah.
Is there like a time that you would be kind of like if it's not urgent now? Is there a time where it would be?
It would be ideal to by mid-fall, just to know that it's there so we can prepare bid documents and get it in the queue. I mean, the planning department's overworked as it is. They have enough work to do. And the sooner they know that something's moving forward, it'd be advantageous. That being said, also the other point that just the big picture right now, the Central Skate Park's in the design phase as well, and not as far as we are, but they have $1 million, and their intent is to have that up to bid this year as well. And there's also a park in North Minneapolis that's short of money, and they're putting out for rebid. So it is advantageous that there potentially could be 3 bids for skate parks. There's a chance that it'd be a more competitive bidding environment, meaning that you might have a better use of the funds. So there is that part. That's another reason why we're really anxious to kind of get it done sooner than later. As well as what I talked about earlier, the triangle of 3 distinct parks from Painter to 28th Street to Central being completed, which was kind of the vision of the skate park activity plan that's been permitted for 10 years.
Where do you get, so you said that the worst case scenario is that like you have to raise the money yourselves. Where would you even start? Where would that even come from? And what are the barriers?
Yeah, I mean, so we've been fortunate is other parts have been pieced together. There's Hennepin County Youth Sports Grants that can go up to $300,000, and that was used at Elliott's. That was the first one ever given to a skate park, and that was $250,000, I think. Fall Wall has a 300,000 Hinton County Youth Sport grant. There's no guarantee on that. And also the park board has other priorities for those requests too. It's not, so again, we have to kind of budget line and say whatever you were thinking of requests the last 3 years, can you scratch that and put the skate park in front. So that's one example. I mean, we've had, when you don't have a lump sum, or at least a serious lump sum, you start patchworking everything together, and it's just going to take a long time. And the costs are going to continue to go up, and there's a chance of momentum, lose the momentum, you know.
That's what I was gonna ask, so if.
Wait, there's a question about.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of two-part question. Yeah, I'm curious, how did the funding for Osceola?
They self-raise it. That was Marshall Hubby, who was on our board of city state.
Okay, how much did that park cost?
So 200,000. It's a great little park.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that would be
for that park.
and that's a small town, which they privately raised it, privately did it, in public bid, so they were able to work with somebody, got concrete donations, had volunteers, you know, kind of a DIY spot.
In regards to the DIY, what does this hang up on liability?
You know, we never got too far into discussions, and we never met with their legal counselor at all, but we were working towards a agreements memorandum, and then it changed to be construction contract. And there's a lot of issues, I think part of there's still a part in there, I don't know, either legal or your documents, that volunteers cannot use power tools. You know, it's written, I don't know how long, but
You work with probably the unions and the job, the work that the unions, doing versus volunteers taking that.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of the elders or stewards of the community, if you will, don't have any issues with butting bags of concrete and building spots, good spots that are built right. And I don't know, it'd just be really nice. And I know it's probably not the meaning for it, but like if there was a derelict piece of land in the city, an eyesore, if you would, they just say, you guys go. It might not be a lot to make the most out of it. I know a bunch of us would be willing to contribute to see something like that happen. And there's such a great deal of pride that goes into building something that you own, and like it keeps you really involved in the community as well. And I don't know, maybe it's a different meeting for that, but planting seeds, if you will. Yeah.
I would, to that point, like if you, because it was originally allocated as a DIY project, what happened there and having folks like that do it? Or was it never?
Park board
No.
didn't want to move forward.
Legal liability, issues with the union, there's
Sure.
level of, we need the public bid, we've got public money, you can just give it to a group of volunteers, you've got to be competitive.
Yeah,
There's
that
no
makes
sense.
Unless they're not getting paid for it.
Okay.
So I think the idea of having a community build is actually still the spirit, but a little bit more applicable.
Yeah, it's a resolution of something that didn't work out completely. I think we're lucky to have Mark design it. I think it's going to have a very DIY feel to it. I still hope to do a DIY sometime in Minneapolis. It's not St. Paul, they're a little easier to work with.
Question or comment? Okay. I guess we, just for the sake of time, I'm just gonna ask one last question and then we can kind of end it there. If funding was, let's say, we held on for a little while and we were able to see that some other projects needed some funding and we allocated less than the full sum amount, will you be able to raise the rest of that money somehow? So
can't guarantee anything. Most of it's the time too, right?
Yeah.
You just never know when you start funding that way and what changes and
sure
what happens.
But you wouldn't be opposed to partial.
I would be happy there, but yeah, this project's gonna be ground, it's shovel ready, it's gonna be shovel ready really soon. And to sit on it would be kind of a shame at this point. And you know, in 2019, you could have said, let's wait another year and see what happens. And COVID happens and it never gets part.
I'll say around the metro, there's a lot of phase one that went up. Phase two, they never raised the money for, and these parks are dated, and people don't want to stay in them.
Now, I'm asking this question for the group in general, just to kind of know where we're going and where we're headed so that we can think about next steps.
And Joe, just to add on to that too, I mean, we've been asked to like propose building it in phases, but it's such a small space to activate a space and build, like say the snake run first and come back and do the whole, I mean, incredibly added cost to it. And it's, again, it's, if you look at the big picture, it's not, I know $500,000 a lot of money, I don't want to belittle how much that is, but in the grand scheme of things, park infrastructure is not big dollar.
So, yeah, perfect. So then just to gauge everybody where they're at, I'd like to do a vote, but it's not a, doesn't count kind of vote. I'm just curious where people's thoughts are. Would you rather leave the funding where it is, or do you want to have a future conversation about reallocating that? And how do folks feel about where that money is being spent and where our recommendation is? So I'll start from here.
I would like to see the allocation. I could go on, but I'm gonna leave it. I'd like to see it.
I would like to review for reallocation just because it seems like funding great.
About you? See it, okay.
Well, I think from the discussion with the two line, that we want to get all money, the student bar, money this from the two line garden. So if it were reality, no, they would be sort of.
Okay.
I'm more interested in the last one.
I'm a super learner, I will use, I don't, it's kind of my first getting all that thing, but I'm also very good. And
Same, awesome. So we'll talk about this again in the future. We'll bring it back to this committee to have an actual vote on it, reallocating those funds. And we also need to have a discussion with the board, Whittier Alliance board, to have that discussion. But I just wanted to see engage where people were at and how they're feeling. And again, this committee is the place for all of us to gather and talk about these things. And so I want to make sure that other people's voices are also heard, not just one side versus another. And so make sure it's open. So thank you all. And I appreciate you presenting again. Thank you so much. And we appreciate that. So
Yeah, it's very informative.
yeah, perfect. So going back to the agenda, just some last minute things, general announcements and updates.
I can take it from here.
Yeah, go ahead, Maggie.
Sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for coming today. We got a couple of, or a few things to end the night with. First one is, and I think some of you got a preview of it. We have our St Tot Lot coming up in a couple of months, meaning think of trunk or treat, but without the trunk. And it will be at our empty lot on 2116 Nicollet. Some of you guys may have seen it. It's just empty. It's stuck between two buildings, meaning that you can get about like a 10 by 10 tent to decorate as spooky as you would like. And you know, it's just a friend, you know, because I'm a Halloween freak myself and I love it and I'm here for it. So please do sign up. I don't have a QR code for you guys and I apologize, but it's here's. Yeah, and like you can also, my gosh. Yeah, if you put your email and let me know, I will send it to you. But this is what the form looks like. Quick questions. Are you gonna sell? You can sell stuff. You can amplify music. We'll be pulling those permits. We just need to know how many of y'all are gonna do that. We're gonna, please, if you're not gonna do it, do encourage your neighbors who do like Halloween to come and decorate and spook our lot. The next one is that we're having a development 101, meaning, think Kmart, what goes into that kind of stuff to come to have a development in our space. So get the basic rundown of that. This is also happening in October. Again, if this is something you're interested in, I'm happy to send you the link. Apologize for not having QR codes or like active links for you guys to what's the word I'm looking for? Sign up with immediately. But there is a stipend as well. If that's not something in your wheelhouse, do please share it with others who may be interested in learning what it takes to develop something in the likelihoods of our neighborhood. It is in partnership with Lindale neighborhood as well. Lastly, in a couple, not this Saturday or next, is it the next one? I think it's the next one. Is the really free market. It always happens in the Whittier Park. It is stuff that you would normally donate to Goodwill, Savers, you name it. You can bring it to the park and swap it for some other goodies. I will say I've gotten a good Roomba, and I mean like brand spanking new, basically. At the free market, people have gotten furniture. There's also free food as well as like you can get some grocery kind of items. And that is September 7th. It's always the first Saturday of the month.
You want to sell your room?
No.
Profit,
And that is it.
You want to stop?
Oh, yes.
I think we should advertise that widely because a bunch of people told me at the dinner that they wanted to be in the boot camp. But I don't know how many people are.
It will be put in the community.
Yeah, we are slowly blasting it out. I can send you the details if you have more people connections. Otherwise, again, thank you so much for coming, guys.
Yeah, thank you all. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys at next month's Housing and Land Use